The Sun, the center of all life in the Milky Way galaxy. This large star is located 93 million miles from the Earth. But without this massive sphere of burning gas, the Earth would have little chance of surviving.
Just stop!
Oh, I was just beginning to explain our galactic dependency on this star.
Well, you're boring me.
Why? I'm completely dumbfounded.
With your monotonous voice, I feel like I'm in biology class where I don't understand anything, how it connects, or why we learn it.
Would you like me to help?
Please!
Oh, okay, well, I will stop talking like that because it's driving me crazy. Alright, let's take a look at this news clip from earlier this week that explains how the sun starts the whole process of the food
Kenzi,
web.
a reporter, has a story about a discovery made yesterday that the sun actually begins all processes, such as the food web, which leads into the energy pyramid.
That's right, Nicole.
So, Kenzi, is it true that plants absorb the sun's energy and use it to make food for themselves? Is it true that they are called producers and that without them, animals and humans alike would not be able to get the energy they need to survive?
Yes, and yes. Animals, or consumers, get the energy they need to live from the organisms we tend to trample on every day. Without them, we would all die. Of course, we do have to say an awful lot about those poor producers.
Why is that, Kenzi?
Well, you see, Nicole, when an animal eats a plant or another animal, it only gets 10% of the energy from the thing it ate.
I understand. That is not nearly enough energy for us to survive. To get the right amount of energy, animals must eat a lot. This is the energy pyramid.
Yes, well, we certainly have learned a lot about how we get energy. Do we know how it's passed from organism to organism?
Of course. An animal eats a plant, and then another animal eats that animal. This is called a food chain. Kenzi, did you find out the difference between a food chain and a food web?
I did. A food web is many food chains all connected. It can get really complicated.
I see. Well, that's all for now, folks. Check back later for more from Scientific Today.
Such as the savannah, an animal will eat a plant, and then another animal will eat that animal.
Yep, and every time that animal eats another animal, only 10% of the energy gets passed on to the one that ate it.
Okay, I think we have that information covered. Let's get back to the Earth.
Alright, well, almost everything on Earth is made of carbon, like us. And carbon is an organic compound, which is kind of obvious because an organic compound is any carbon-containing element. Except carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, which are poisonous.
Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur are the most abundant elements in living organisms, aka sponge. But we're going to focus on the four classes of the organic compounds, which are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins,
Carbohydrates are referred to as simple sugars. All carbohydrates are made up of glucose. If a carbohydrate has one sugar, it's a monosaccharide. If it has two, it's a disaccharide, and if it has three, it's a polysaccharide. Carbohydrates' main functions is for energy, which is why it is good to eat carbs before a sporting
Like
event.
carbs, one of the functions of lipids is energy. Unlike carbs, lipids have more functions than just that. They are used for padding and insulation, to protect bones, for waterproofing, for vitamins A, D, E, and K, and for steroid hormones. There are four types of lipids. They are fats, oils,
Proteins
steroids,
also have
and
many functions, which is movement, support, transportation, protein hormones, protection, and enzymes. These are all functions of proteins. Proteins are very critical to bodily functions, and if we dehydrated our bodies, 70% of what is left laying on the ground.
final organic compound is nucleic acids. These consist of DNA and RNA. The main function of nucleic acids is to control all cellular functions, including heredity.
all of this connect. These organic compounds are needed for an organism to survive.
So what is all this talk about cells? I mean, I know the body's made up of it, but it just seems like there's more to it.
There is a lot more to it, hon. I mean, not just the body's made of cells, but the whole world.
The whole world?
Every living thing is made of cells. The grass, the tree, the filmer lady right there. I don't know what her name is, but she's beautiful.
That looks like a man.
I don't know, but she's made of cells. And every cell is made up of tiny organs called organelles. Some of these include the mitochondria, the nucleolus, the nucleus, and the endoplasmic reticulum.
But how does this stuff get in and out of the cells?
Passive transport and active transport. Passive transport does not use energy, and active transport does.
But what's the difference?
Well, I just mentioned the energy, like it doesn't and does not, but passive transport moves things from high to low concentration, and active transport well, you know what active transport
Yeah,
is.
it moves from low to high concentration.
Yeah, so it's against the concentration gradient. Well, there are 3 types of passive transport. There's simple diffusion, which keeps things going until the equilibrium is reached. Osmosis, which is the diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. And facilitated diffusion, which is diffusion through a protein pore or slightly larger molecules.
Okay, that's easy enough to remember.
Not really, but I did a good job. So do you think you know how all of this connects, Maybelle?
Yeah. Hold my rate.
Alright.
So, it's all about energy!
Energy!
Cells need energy in order to function, and active and passive transport is how they get it. Well, it's how they get the oxygen to make ATP, which is energy.
Energy!
Yeah!
Now it's time to talk about the cardiovascular system. Let's go to Nicole for the story.
Thanks, Kenzi. The cardiovascular system is the transport of oxygen throughout the body. It is also used to rid the body of carbon dioxide. There are 3 main parts to the cardiovascular system: the heart, blood vessels, and blood.
There are 3 types of blood vessels. There are the arteries, which carry blood away from the heart, the veins, which carry blood back to the heart, and the capillaries, which allow the exchange of materials between the blood and the fluid around the cells.
Yes, and I have just learned... Okay. That diffusion occurs in the capillaries, which must be one of the ways that the cardiovascular system connects with what we have just learned. This diffusion allows oxygen to be brought to the heart and carbon dioxide to be expelled from the body.
So without diffusion, which you just learned about, to put it bluntly, we would die. Diffusion only occurs in the capillary/alveoli region of the body. Active transport is used to move oxygen into the capillaries, and passive transport is used to move carbon dioxide into the lungs.
That's right, Kenzi. If Miss Miller's advanced freshman biology class had never learned about diffusion, then they never would have been able to understand the cardiovascular system. This also connects back to the whole idea of energy. The cardiovascular system takes oxygen to the cells so that they can make ATP, which is what our body uses for energy.
That's right, and that's all from Scientific Today.
I am so hungry! Exclamation points.
Me too. But I'm getting kind of tired.
I have a simple explanation for that. We need to eat because we need energy.
But we already said that we get energy from oxygen.
Well, that's only one part in making energy. We need to eat because we need the energy from the glucose.
Okay. Mara?
So, comma, how does the food become nutrients and such? Question mark.
You're done.
Simple. Through the digestive system. First, we chew the food, which is called mastication. Then, we swallow it.
After that, it goes to my belly, and in the stomach, the pepsin begins to break down the proteins.
After it travels the stomach, it goes to the first part of the small intestine called the duodenum. Once it is there, the proteins are broken down further, and the starches, fats, and oils are also digested.
That's awesome.
I know what happens next, period. It travels to the rest of the small intestine, comma, where the villi absorb nutrients, period. After that, the nutrients are delivered to the blood and then to the cells.
Period.
Period.
But what happens to the stuff that isn't nutritional?
It travels to the colon, where the water is removed. After that, it travels out of the anus. It travels out of the anus and into the toilet. But there are other important organs in the digestive system.
I know them. The pancreas releases insulin, which tells the cells to open their protein pores so the glucose can enter. Another organ is the liver. It produces bile. The gallbladder stores the bile and then releases it into the duodenum.
The bile allows the fat to break down, period.
Hi, and welcome back to What's Happening Inside My Body.
Hi.
Hi!
Okay, so what's all this fuss about glucose?
Well, the glucose is transported to the cells after it has been broken down by the digestive system. The cells use it to make ATP. This starts the process of aerobic cellular respiration.
This process uses oxygen. Most organisms use aerobic respiration more than anaerobic. Aerobic respiration is more efficient. There are 3 steps.
3.
There are glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain.
Okay.
Ow!
So aerobic cellular respiration starts with glycolysis.
Which is the splitting of the glycose molecule.
Right. We now have 2 3-carbon pyruvate molecules with that.
Came from.
Oh, right, thank you. Which came from the 6-carbon glucose molecule.
And don't forget the 2 NADH.
So, after glycolysis, our cells will have produced 2 ATP molecules, 2 pyruvate, and 2 NADH.
What happens after the glucose is split?
Just change your voice.
Hi.
The pyruvate and NADH are sent to the mitochondria to begin the Krebs cycle.
Oh my gosh, you had to tell me what happens in the Krebs cycle.
Well, each pyruvate is broken down to 3 CO2 molecules. There are now 4 NADH and 1 ATP has been made.
And now, the NADH
Gives this hydrogen molecule
to the electron transport chain. It's rewarded with 3 ATP. The hydrogen bonds with 2 oxygen and leaves the cell as water.
And we're done.
It seems like so much for just a bit of energy.
Thanks for watching What's Happening Inside My Body.
Join us next time on channel 5023.
Well, there's also another way for cells to get energy, but it is much simpler and much quicker to explain. It is called anaerobic cellular respiration, and it takes place without oxygen.
It's much less efficient though. It only takes 2 ATP and aerobic cellular respiration makes 36 ATP.
It's also called fermentation. There are 2 types of fermentation, but our body only uses one. We use lactic acid fermentation.
First, there is glycolysis, like aerobic cellular respiration. But this
Can't see your
time,
face.
the NADH, hi Riley, is sent to the fermentative pathway. The pyruvate is converted to lactic acid in this fermentative pathway, and the NADH is converted back to NAD+. At the end of the process, there is a gain of 2 ATP.
Sounds easy enough to me.
We just talked about contributes to the transfer of energy.
Right. If we lost any of the steps, then we would not be able to get the energy that we need to survive.
We learned about the food web first so that we can understand how we got food. Then we learned about organic compounds because they contribute to our body getting what it needs to make energy.
After that, we learned about cells and active and passive transport, which is how we get oxygen and glucose to help make energy. We also talked about the cardiovascular system, which delivers oxygen to our cells again to help make energy.
And finally, digestion and cellular respiration. Digestion breaks down the food we eat so that we can get glucose to make energy and other nutrients.
And cellular respiration is actually making energy.
And that's how everything is